Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Okay, so today we are taking the backgrounds that we made last technique time, which was not this past Wednesday's video, but the Wednesday before, and we're going to turn it into some journaling cards and tags for our journals. And I also did one off camera, and I don't know how well you can see the die cuts, so I got that one out. We're going to cut that one up too and see how much we can get decorated in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz mixed media rotary trimmer, and the only reason I'm using that is because with this one, with the fake flowers, I think I need the extra oomph of this cutter to cut my pieces. I also went ahead and spritzed the backs and kind of hit it with my heat tool to kind of flatten them out a little bit. So I am gonna do my default cutting for 8.5 by 11 papers that I like decorate for cutting down into tags and journaling cards. Is I cut the 11 side in half at 5.5. And yeah, we're gonna have to do a little bit of gluing down to get that all nice and flattened out. Then I take 1/2 and I cut that in half again on the 8.5 side, so at 4.25. So basically this creates your standard 5.5 by 4.25 card base. So if you wanted to use these to make cards, this is a good card front. And then I take the other half, and to mix things up, we're gonna cut it into tags, and with a piece that's 8.5, I can do 2 3-inch tags. And then that'll leave me a 2.5-inch tag. So that's how I like to cut an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper up for using in journals. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that for the other 2 pieces of paper, so we've got everything ready to go, and I'll be back. So I also went ahead and cut out some fancy tag tops on my tags using templates I have. And so all I did was I flipped them over because the front sides of these are so busy, traced along my template, and now I'm just gonna trim out so that our tags have fancy tops. I didn't do it for the blue ones because they're kind of steampunky, and I don't feel like fancy rounded tag tops really go with those. So that's why I've only done the pink and the yellow ones. Now I have a video showing you how I made my fancy tag top templates. I will leave a link for that down below. So we've got our pink tags all ready to get decorated. The yellow pieces need a little bit of fixing up because with the fake flowers, they're poking up in some spots that I think what we need to do is add some glue in and just pinch them down. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done the repairs for the most part and squished them down and got it as good as I think I'm going to get it on these guys. I think for our journaling cards, I'm going to attempt to round our corners just because rounded corners go in and out of pockets better, and these guys have got a lot of texture on them, so let's give them a helping hand where we can, assuming I can get them into my corner rounder. Come on. I got one corner rounded. Okay, what I'm gonna do is use it as kind of a template for rounding this corner so that I can, ooh, that cutting went a little wonky apparently. So I can now do all the corners so that they're pretty much the same. let's go ahead and ink all of our edges on these guys and get to decorating them. And I'm going to use Brush Corduroy Distress Oxide. I'm pretty sure I've got a dauber for this somewhere, but I don't know where. So we're just starting a new one. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'd say the fiddliness of the fake flowers is worth the texture and interest that I'm getting on these pieces. So yeah, what I may end up doing is later on adding more glue and just weighing these suckers down under something to see if I can get those bubbling spots on the edges to flatten out completely. All right, so let's get to doing some decorating. For this one, what I want to do is I'm going to do a cluster of mini envelopes, and I'm going to use, and these are from a Love Junk Journal kit, and they're the mini tags in the kit. And so instead of using them as tags, what I'm going to do is, I think I decided, I played around and did a little prototype, so I'm just trying to remember what I ended up doing. What did I do? Fold it up about 1 1/4. Then fold it down, not quite the whole way, so that we have a gap between the bottom and the top. Then I'm going to take my notch punch after I fold everybody. You know what? I think what I did was, to make life easier, I put a ruler down where I wanted to fold. Sorry if there's any glare off the middle part of the ruler, and did that to get a straighter fold. And then again, you just take this up and go not quite all the way, so that you have a bit of a gap between the bottom fold on your envelope and where it's folded. See, so there's a little gap there. Let's do one more. Trying to make sure everything's as straight as can be, since I hand cut these out, so there's always going to be a little not straightness involved when I cut out a digital. All right, so I'm gonna grab my notch punch. You can use a circle punch. You can skip this part altogether, but what I'm gonna do is notch punch these guys out, and I'm wondering if my notch punch will let me go all 3 at once. We shall see. And let's try and find kind of the center, because on the sample ones I did, they were so not centered. 1, 2, 3.5. There-ish should be our center. Nope, it definitely does not like 3, and now it's not going to let go of them. Oy. I have a feeling this is going to be a struggle bus kind of filming day. It has that feel. All right. Let's go back in and just do them one at a time. That's what I get for trying to shortcut things. Ooh, did not quite get that where it was before, so we're gonna come in and hand trim that mangled bit off. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in and hand trim the other two so that we don't have the same problem. Yeah, it is rather warm in my craft space right now. And so I'm debating whether I want to lower my AC or just not get as much filming done today, because I am baking right now, which I know my house is only like 78 degrees, but that's what it is where ink with some Distress Oxide Fossilized Amber. The thermostat is, and my TV room was an addition added on by the previous owner. And this room tends to be, I think, warmer than the rest of the house. And, oh, I had the TV on earlier, which also tends to make the room warmer. All right, and I'm just gonna ink the insides of these flaps because I'm gonna leave the flaps open and loose like I did on the sample so that you could actually tuck itty bitty things into them. Okay, let's glue these guys closed, and I'm just gonna run the glue along the two sides of our bottom flap, and that'll create our little pocket. That over here too. And then on our last one. And I am gonna grab my bone folder and reinforce my folds again, especially on the one I kept crunching up the top part. And now we're just gonna figure out how we like our composition of envelopes. I think I like that. So what I'm gonna do is tilt this up a little bit, put some glue there, stick it back down, lift this one up and just put glue along the very top of it, because that'll catch everybody. Uh-oh, assuming it will stick. And then we're gonna pull over our base, and I think I'm gonna stick that there, but I need something behind it to help it pop out more. And so I think I'm gonna put it on some antique book page. Yeah, I think that'll work. And what we'll end up doing, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and glue it to the book page and then tear around it. Oh, I have a feeling I'm going to be fighting my glue all day today, too. I accidentally left it open. Not quite overnight, because my dog woke me up in the middle of the night, insisting to go out. And because I let them out from this room, what I end up doing is while they're out in the yard doing what they need to do, I figure I might as well craft. So I spent the time playing around with my craft supplies, which resulted in me forgetting when they came in to put the top back in my glue. And I cleaned it out, but I don't know. 'Tis that time of year where my art glitter glue gets all kinds of gunked up because it's just too dang warm. It does not like the heat this much. Of course, neither do I. So I'm just kind of tearing it so that it's not exactly perfect. And then I'm gonna take probably, let's grab some Scorched Timber. I want it really dark around those edges. Pull this back over. This is gonna go on like so. Let's go ahead and do that. And I kind of want to put little pieces of the dyed paper inside the pockets. So what we're going to do is we're going to straighten up the bottom. That did not work very well, now did it, for keeping it straight? So now we get a little piece of antique book page tucked inside the envelope. I kind of like that. All right, let's do that in on the way. Just making sure it sits underneath so that I can push that down. That one, let's grab, I use the tearing ruler to tear it, so let's just tear it off with the tearing ruler to keep it uniform. And then it's a little surprise for whoever gets this journal that this goes in, that they can, you know, pull out the teeny tiny pieces and use them to decorate if they want. Just using my foam folder to make sure it's opened up as much as it's going to open up so that it's easier to squeeze my little bits of book page in. It should fit in, but it seems to be having a little trouble. Let's tear a little more off. All right, that's all the way in. So there's little missives inside our little envelopes. And I think it needs a label going across here. Oh, it's gonna be one of those days. Lengthwise, it's right. Widthwise, it's too wide. So I think we're gonna grab one of our number word stamp thingies. Because, yeah, what I want is something that's gonna go all the way across. Like that. You know what? I think I want something not yellow. That's better. And we're gonna rip off that top little bit there. Ink our edges. I think I'm gonna go yellow with it coming onto the page a little bit, and then brown around the very edge. And this is just gonna help it stand out against what's behind it. I think I like that. That one's done. Let's pull this one over. And I did pull out a few things that I've got off to the side to hopefully help this process along. Given that we're going all kinds of flowery on here, I'm thinking of putting this on. So yeah, let's go with that. And it's gonna need some antique linen distress ink. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to attach this, given how not flat this piece is. I think I'm gonna stick this under something heavy to try and get these to flatten out a little bit more so that it's a little less textury, so that I can glue this guy down. So we're gonna come back to this one after I've like weighed it down. So let me go do that. Okay, I did a couple extra things off camera just to speed this process along a little bit because it's taking me forever. Oh, it's gonna be one of those days. So I went ahead and used my We Are Memory Keepers corner rounder, the handheld one, to round all of my corners on everybody. I also went in and inked all of our edges. So I did these with Scorched Timber and these with brushed corduroy. And I pulled out fussy cut images for each of them. I didn't make any other decorating decisions yet for each piece, but I figured I could pull out the main focal image and then do my antique linen on all of them so that they the white edges are less stark and noticeable. What I also want to do is I want to highlight all the texture we added. So for these, and all of these fussy cut elements are by Fabi Art Studio. So what I'm going to do for these guys is let's start with this one, and I've got Sizzix Luster Wax, and this is charcoal. So we're going to see how this looks. I think this might be interesting on here, and so I'm just going to use my finger because you know me, I don't mind getting my fingers messy, and I'm just going to pick a few spots to brush over the gears to bring them out a little bit. I don't know how well that's showing up on screen. I'll hold it up close to the camera once I'm done doing everybody, but I'm just kind of going along where there are gears and just trying to highlight the fact that there's texture in there. Now, you don't have to use your finger for something like this. You also don't have to use luster wax. If you've got other waxes, those will work too. If you've got paint, you can use paint and put a little paint on your finger. You could also use distressed crayons. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to add sparkle, which is the luster wax adds a little shine to it. While making my fingers nice and messy. And it's kind of one of those things, depending on how the light hits it, determines how much you will or won't see. And I'm just going to do a few random spots over here because we added tissue paper to give it texture. So I'm just adding a little here and there just to add a little bit more emphasis. And let's see how, there you go. You can kind of see the sparkle. So yeah, I definitely like adding a little bit of oomph to these pieces because compared to this one, you know, it makes the gears stand out more so that you can see them better. So let's do charcoal on this one. And then I also have some other options. I've also got some really old Inca Gold in silver, and yeah, this stuff is really dry, but you can leaven it back up with a little water sprayed on. So there we go. That's with the Inca Gold in silver. Do one more with that one. I think I may be getting some of the ink off on my finger and may have gotten some into the Inca Gold, but that's okay. But yeah, definitely getting a little of the blue off of the piece onto my finger and then into the Inca Gold. Oh well. All right, I'm gonna go wash my fingers off before I do any more. It was only moderately successful. And for this last one, I pulled out a distress crayon. So we're gonna use that to smoosh around on the piece. Just trying to figure out where we've got gears and stuff that we might want to highlight. This is another product you can move around with your fingers. So I just kind of scribbled around. Now I'm gonna take my finger and smoosh it around. So instead of highlighting these with sparkle on top, we're going a little more grungy. Ooh, that worked really nice for highlighting those gears there. And if there's anywhere that you've got too much or you're not happy with, you can come in with a damp cloth and, you know, move it around. Ooh! Forgot I used distress inks underneath, and that's taking off more of the distress ink underneath than the crayon. So let's leave that bit alone right there. I may come back in with some more ink, or I may just cover it with whatever I put on there. But I actually kind of like how the crayon kind of highlighted bits. So that's another option for highlighting your texture on these. So let's take a look at the 3 options that we did. So the first one is Luster Wax. The second is the Inca Gold Wax. And then this one's the Distress Crayon. And it just helps make the texture that we put so much time into adding pop. And yeah, with the waxes, it's definitely a matter of tilting it to catch the light, whereas the crayon definitely just makes it show up more. Okay, these guys are a little bit flatter, having been squashed under some heavy packs of cardstock and other stuff. So we're all set to get to the fun part of decorating, everybody. So let's take them one theme at a time, and let's start by finishing off the bee themed ones. All right, I want to put this guy on, and part of me is seriously leaning towards just doing that and keeping this one fairly simple, and part of me thinks it needs a little something else, and I can't decide what. I'm gonna set that up here so I can think upon it, and we can work on these 3 instead of sitting and staring at it forever. So I've got bees with flowers. So those are from Art Treasury, and that's from Giggle Glitter GFX. I'll leave links to everything down below as usual. And they need some labels and some other things to dress them up a bit. So let me grab my little binder with all of the Junk Journal Studio labels that I've been using so frequently lately. I think I want some dyed cheesecloth. Something didn't get put away because I had one that was a little bit more this colory, and I don't see that in here. There it is. That's the one I wanted. I think I'm gonna do a bit of cheesecloth. I think I want to do yellow and brown behind that one. So let's cut off a piece. And this is giving me an idea for over here. I think this might get some cheesecloth too. Oh look, I got a piece right there. And we're gonna use a little bit of that. So yeah, for the cheesecloth, I just ink it up with my Distress inks. So let's get off a piece of this, which I think was done with like Scorched Timber. And then just leave them to dry. And I just picked this up at my like grocery store. All right, let's finish gathering everything, and then we can kind of assembly line the assembly of them. That needs something else, and that needs something else. So now we're going to assemble all these guys. I can talk, really I can. Okay, so Junk Journal Studio, 49 and Market tickets and stuff, and just something I stamped myself. We need to ink edges, and I'm going Scorched Timber. So I'm gonna ink that with some Fossilized Amber. And you may notice I'm putting 5 elements on this tag, and that's because, generally speaking, odd numbers are more aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and so, excuse me as I move my Fabri-Tac out of the way. So when I am doing decorating, I tend to stick to odd numbers of elements put on an item. So this one I felt needed more than just 3. So we're going full on 5. I am going to come in and do a little bit more ink on those spots, just tone them down a little bit more. And yeah, I'm just using the Fossilized Amber that's on there. So yeah, they're standing out even less now. All right, let's trim this piece off. And I'll save that for something else. And don't think I inked edges. I don't remember if I inked edges. I might have inked edges. I'm re-inking edges. Clearly, the inking of the edges was not noticeable enough that I can remember or discern that they have been inked. So we're just doing some Scorched Timber. So that guy's done. Okay, for the 2 very white pieces, I am gonna do the same thing I did on the other one. Knock that back. I also kind of want to tweak the color on this a little. I'm gonna ink all of my edges. So that one's done. Pull this one over, ink edges. Now, I am going to start by putting my cheesecloth kind of on the back of this, and given how much texture we've already added, I think what I'm going to do is tack it down just on the edges and then cut out what's in between, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going to do a line of Fabri-Tac. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this little extra bit off. I'm going to come in, wrong scissors. So I try not to mix my fabric cutting and my paper cutting scissors, because when you use fabric scissors to cut your paper, it dulls the fabric scissors. When you use your paper scissors to cut your fabric, it dulls your paper scissors. So it's best to have separate scissors for each item. I also use, these came with my Bow It All, and so is more designed for cutting ribbon. And now I'm like, you know what? The labels on here, not needed. Like, this is the whole show. Well, maybe a little like number label here would be good, but otherwise this is the whole show right here, this cheesecloth around, I think. I'm gonna trim a little of this off because it's overhanging and stick it down like over here. And we'll use Fabri-Tac to tack this down since we've got the fabric along the edge. Do that. I'm gonna probably put a little down over here to scrunch some of this into so it doesn't stick over so much. So let's grab my little spatula, and what we're gonna do is kind of scrunch it on there. Yeah, I'm thinking like a number across here now. And I think we'll use some of the brown stuff too. Okay, that one's done. Let's set him aside. Let's pull over our steampunky ones and find our steampunky bits that I picked out. All right, so if I'm going that way on this one, the ship's gonna go on this guy. Actually, I think I'm gonna turn this way and do the ship over here. Yes, I think that's gonna go there. This one's gonna get, oh, that does not fit that way. All right, that'll go this way then, and we'll put the clock on like so. For the Tinny Tug, I've got her. Steampunk Kitty! It just tickles me. And then the boy for this one. And these are all fussy cuts by Fabi Art Studio. Now, they need some stuff to go with them. I've got some inked up antique book page we're gonna tear down and use on at least some of these. First, I'm gonna tear off the mostly white edges. Now let's see who's getting some book page. I don't think I want the ship to get book page. I think the ship's gonna get very little additional decorating. So let's book page everybody we're gonna book page. Yes. All right, labels. All right. Those are all the bits and pieces I've pulled out. Let's see if we can get them to work together in a composition. That's only 4 and it's not going to work. I'm going to need something else on there because it's going to bug me. All right, so we need to do some inking. And I want to alter the color of this guy. So I'm gonna grab brush corduroy, distress oxide, and ink on top of that. And this is another of the 49 and Market tickets. And I'm not sure I'm loving that choice. I think it's a little too yellowy. So we're gonna grab some Scorched Timber, distress oxide. So yeah, don't be afraid when you buy pre-made ephemera bits to add ink to them to change how they look. I'm gonna do a few drops of blitz of water on that. All right, I'm gonna try using a brush instead of drops in my hands because quite frankly, I have trouble getting the distress sprayer to do smaller droplets. There we go. Gonna give that a second to reactivate the ink that we added. And then I'm gonna come in with a towel and dry it off. And this is a Love Junk Journal. This one I am going to ink with Salvaged Patina, Distress Ink. So also don't be afraid to add color to your digitals if they're just not quite what you need. I think I managed to cover up all of the texture on this tag accidentally. Like I had meant it to leave the key sticking out, and my final assembly ended up covering most of the key up. Boy, oh well, that one's done. I am not gonna agonize over it. All right. And that one's done. Not sure that this is really standing out all that much, but oh well, too late now. Okay, I have a feeling this video has gotten ridiculously long when I intended it to be a quick video. So I think I'm gonna call it quits, and I'll do these guys off camera. And so this is what we got done. These steampunky ones. And then our bee journaling ones. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.